What would you do if the person you loved whispered, "This is my last night with you, I'm leaving," in today's emotional Wild West story? A brave cowboy risks everything to save an Apache woman from deadly outlaws, proving that true love and kindness never surrender. Watch until the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for more unforgettable Wild West stories. Montana Territory, 1884. As the last rays of the sun slipped behind the towering Rocky Mountains, a peaceful silence settled over Jacob Carter's lonely ranch. The horses stood quietly near the fence, and a cool evening breeze carried the scent of pine trees across the valley. Beside a small campfire, the Apache woman Ayana watched the dancing flames without speaking. Her face was calm, but her eyes revealed a sadness she had tried to hide for days. Finally, she broke the silence with a soft voice. "This is my last night with you. I'm leaving before sunrise." The words struck Jacob harder than any bullet ever had. Jacob stared at her, unable to believe what he had just heard. For several moments, he could not find the right words. Months earlier, he had discovered Ayana badly injured after a ruthless outlaw gang attacked a small Apache camp near the river. Most people would have walked away, afraid of becoming involved, but Jacob had chosen kindness over fear. He carried her to his ranch, treated her wounds, and promised she would be safe there. He never imagined that the stranger he rescued would slowly become the most important person in his lonely life. During the long weeks that followed, Ayana recovered her strength while helping around the ranch. She repaired broken fences with remarkable skill, cared for the horses, and even taught Jacob better ways to track wildlife through the mountains. In return, Jacob showed her how to manage cattle, repair wagons, and prepare the ranch for Montana's unforgiving winters. Every challenge they faced together made them trust one another a little more. Without realizing it, the quiet ranch that once echoed with loneliness had become filled with laughter, shared stories, and the comfort of true friendship. As autumn slowly turned toward winter, life on the ranch became harder. Heavy storms buried the trails beneath deep snow, while wolves circled the cattle during freezing nights. Food became scarce, and every day demanded courage and determination. Yet neither Jacob nor Ayana complained. Together they faced every hardship, proving that two people working side by side could overcome almost anything. Around the campfire each evening, Jacob listened as Ayana spoke about her tribe, her childhood, and the traditions that had shaped her life before violence tore everything apart. Although Ayana smiled more often now, Jacob noticed that she sometimes disappeared into the hills alone, returning with worried eyes. She rarely explained where she had gone. Unknown to Jacob, she had seen signs that frightened her deeply. Horse tracks appeared near the valley, and strangers had been asking questions about an Apache woman living with a rancher. Rumors spread quickly across the frontier, and bounty hunters often followed those rumors wherever money could be earned. Ayana feared that the peaceful life they had built together was about to be destroyed. That evening, the campfire crackled softly as stars filled the dark Montana sky. Jacob finally asked the question that had weighed on his heart. "Why are you leaving?" Ayana lowered her eyes before answering. She explained that dangerous men were still searching for her because one outlaw falsely believed she knew the location of hidden gold stolen years earlier. Those men had already murdered innocent people in their search. If they discovered Jacob had sheltered her, they would burn his ranch and kill anyone who stood beside him. She refused to let that happen. Jacob shook his head firmly. "You're not a burden," he said with quiet determination. "This ranch stopped being lonely the day you arrived. Whatever danger comes, we'll face it together." His words were sincere, but Ayana knew courage alone could not stop greedy men driven by revenge and reward money. She gently smiled despite the tears forming in her eyes. She thanked Jacob for treating her with respect when so many others judged her by her heritage. She admitted that his kindness had restored her faith that good people still existed. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. The fire burned lower while the wind whispered through the tall pine trees surrounding the ranch. Jacob wanted to convince her to stay, yet he could see that her decision came from love rather than fear. She believed leaving would protect him. Ayana quietly placed a small, hand-carved wooden eagle into Jacob's hand. It had belonged to her father, who had once told her that an eagle always finds its way home, no matter how far it flies. "Keep this," she whispered, "so you'll remember me." Late that night, after Jacob finally fell asleep from exhaustion, Ayana stood outside the cabin one last time. Moonlight covered the ranch in silver, making everything appear peaceful. She looked toward the stable, the fields they had repaired together, and the small porch where they had shared countless conversations. Tears rolled down her face, but she refused to let them change her decision. Before dawn could break over the mountains, she quietly disappeared into the darkness, leaving only faint footprints across the prairie and a broken-hearted cowboy who still believed hope would someday bring her back. Before the first light of dawn touched the Montana sky, Jacob Carter quietly saddled his faithful horse. The ranch felt strangely empty without Ayana, and every passing minute made him more certain that letting her leave had been the greatest mistake of his life. He noticed the fresh hoofprints and footprints leading east across the open prairie. Without wasting another second, he followed the trail with determination, burning in his heart. The cold morning wind cut across the grasslands, but Jacob ignored the freezing air. His only thought was reaching Ayana before someone else found her, because deep inside he knew she had left to protect him, not because she wanted to say goodbye. For hours, Jacob rode across rivers, rocky hills, and endless plains. Along the way, he discovered broken branches, abandoned campfire ashes, and horse tracks that did not belong to Ayana. His experience as a rancher told him several riders had been following the same trail. The realization filled him with urgency. Those men could only be bounty hunters, searching for the reward placed on the Apache woman's head. Jacob urged his horse forward, refusing to rest even for a moment. Every mile strengthened his determination. He silently promised himself that no matter how dangerous the situation became, he would never allow Ayana to face it alone again. Near midday, Jacob reached a narrow canyon where he heard angry voices echoing between the cliffs. Carefully moving closer, he saw Ayana standing with remarkable courage while 6 armed outlaws surrounded her. Their leader demanded she reveal the location of hidden gold they believed her late father had protected years earlier. Ayana calmly denied knowing anything about the treasure, but the criminals laughed, convinced she was lying. One outlaw raised his rifle, threatening to kill her unless she cooperated. Watching from behind the rocks, Jacob realized there was no time to wait. One wrong move from the gang would cost Ayana her life forever. Jacob tightened his grip on the reins and rode directly into the canyon without hesitation. Dust rose beneath his horse as he shouted for the outlaws to step away from Ayana. The sudden interruption caught the gang completely by surprise. Their leader mocked the lone cowboy, believing one rancher could never defeat 6 armed criminals. Jacob remained calm despite the rifles pointed toward him. He declared that they would have to go through him before laying another hand on the woman he loved. His fearless determination unsettled the gang, who had expected fear instead of unwavering courage from a simple Montana cattleman. The tense silence lasted only seconds before gunfire erupted across the canyon. Jacob quickly guided his horse behind a large boulder while returning fire only to defend himself and Ayana. Taking advantage of the confusion, Ayana slipped behind cover and used her remarkable knowledge of the rocky terrain to outsmart the outlaws. She distracted 2 gunmen by throwing stones into the brush. forcing them to split apart. Jacob seized the opportunity to disarm another outlaw without taking a life. Together they fought not with hatred, but with determination to survive. Their perfect teamwork proved how deeply they trusted one another after everything they had endured. Just as the outlaws prepared for another attack, the sound of galloping horses echoed through the canyon. Sheriff William Hayes arrived with several deputies and nearby ranchers who had joined the search after Jacob's hurried departure from the ranch. Seeing themselves hopelessly outnumbered, the criminals threw down their weapons one by one. The sheriff quickly placed them under arrest for murder, robbery, and kidnapping. As the prisoners were led away in chains, peace slowly returned to the canyon. The danger that had haunted Ayanna for months had finally come to an end, and the reward hunters would never threaten another innocent family again. When the excitement faded, Ayanna quietly walked toward Jacob with tears shining in her eyes. She admitted that every step she had taken away from the ranch had broken her heart. She explained that she believed leaving was the only way to keep Jacob safe from those ruthless men. She never doubted his courage or kindness. Instead, she feared losing the only person who had ever accepted her without prejudice. Jacob gently held her hands and assured her that true love could never survive through separation. Facing danger together was always better than living safely apart with broken hearts and endless regret. Jacob looked into Ayanna's eyes and smiled warmly before saying the words she would remember for the rest of her life. "Home isn't a place without you." Hearing those simple words, Ayanna finally allowed herself to believe that she truly belonged somewhere again. Together they returned to the ranch, where neighbors welcomed them with respect instead of suspicion. Over time, they rebuilt not only fences and barns, but also hope for the future. Their story spread across Montana as a reminder that kindness could overcome hatred, courage could defeat fear, and trust between two honest hearts could heal even the deepest wounds left by the painful past.